president today gave a funny, informal speech where he talked about traveling as a young, brand-new senator with Republican Senator Dick Lugar. They were in Ukraine together, and Senator Obama had to be told by his hosts to please not touch the TNT. As in, please do not touch the explosives, sir. This speech today from the president was full of stuff I have never heard him talk about before. It had a lot of very funny anecdotes in it at times. We've got some of the funniest stuff coming up for you in just a moment. But there was one very serious moment in this same speech. It appeared to be just a serious digression in the middle of this otherwise fairly informal set of remarks from the president. And when the president made this digression in the middle of this otherwise informal speech today, his digression made headlines around the world.
Today, I want to make it absolutely clear to Assad and those under his command, the world is watching. The use of chemical weapons is and would be totally unacceptable. And if you make the tragic mistake of using these weapons, there will be consequences and you will be held accountable.
There will be consequences. What will those consequences be? No one is saying, but everybody who's saying there are going to be consequences are saying it in a way that we are supposed to believe would be a very big deal. Listen.
This is a red line for the United States. I'm not going to telegraph in any specifics what we would do in the event of credible evidence that the Assad regime has resorted to using chemical weapons against their own people. But suffice it to say, we are certainly planning to take action.
Apparently, we are planning to take action. When a conflict has been going on somewhere in the world for a long time, it is sometimes hard to tell when a development in that faraway conflict, in that war, crosses the line into being a big deal, into being a big newsworthy thing for the whole world. What is maybe happening in Syria is one of those things that crosses that line. You can tell in part because both the President of the United States and the American Secretary of State today talked about it and threatened that the U.S. is going to act in response. Now, I do not know exactly what that means, and neither do you, but we are probably not talking about a sternly worded letter here. When we talk about Syria having chemical weapons, we're talking about, like, the nerve agents sarin and VX. We're talking about mustard gas. Do you remember the doomsday cult that released sarin gas in the Tokyo subway system back in the mid-90s? They killed 13 people. They seriously injured 50 people. They temporarily blinded something like 1,000 people. Imagine that, but with weapons-grade sarin disseminated by missile. The Associated Press says today that Syria is believed to have several hundred ballistic surface-to-surface missiles capable of carrying chemical warheads, plus several tons of chemical weapons stored in either large drums or in artillery shells. The cause for all the concern right now, including these statements from President Obama and Secretary Clinton, is the reports from this weekend. Reports from this weekend quoting American and Israeli intelligence sources saying that there was, quote, heightened activity at some of Syria's chemical weapons sites in the past few days. The State Department spokesman today raising the prospect that the Syrian government may feel like it is losing the war it's fighting against its rebels with conventional weapons, and they may instead be looking to their chemical weapons supplies out of desperation. There's no reason to be alarmist about this going on, but this is also alarming enough now that it makes sense to be paying attention and paying attention closely. And toward that end, I just want to highlight one other detail of this evolving story. The last time the international community noticed unusual activity around Syria's chemical weapons sites, the last time the world basically freaked out that maybe the Syrians were going to gas their own people with sarin or VX or mustard gas, the last time this happened was in July. And in July, this is who stood up for the Syrian government and said, don't worry, it'll never happen.
Any stocks of WMD or any unconventional weapon that the Syrian Arab Republic possess would never be used against civilian or against the Syrian people during this crisis, at any circumstances, no matter how the crisis would evolve, no matter how.
That spokesman assuring the world that Syria would never use its chemical weapons, would never use its weapons of mass destruction against its own people. That guy, the last government spokesman who told the world, don't worry about this, we won't use them. That guy today defected, fled the country. He is said to be on his way to London. Even if you have not been paying attention to Syria before now, or you've only been paying attention on and off, depending on the headlines, it is worth understanding why this is now a focus of international concern and international focus.